Welcome to Focus on Claims with Ernie Bray, CEO of ACT.
Hey everyone, Ernie Bray here with a episode of Focus on Claims that I've been wanting to have for a long time. Today's guest is Brad Fancher of Allen Adjusting. Now, Brad is an appraiser out in the Midwest, does a fantastic job. And the way he works is a great example for other appraisers out there. So I wanted to get him on the podcast today to hear his story, how it works, how he's doing everything, and how he's built his business. And welcome on, Brad.
Well, thanks, Ernie. It's great to be here. I've listened to, maybe I've listened to every episode. I'm not sure yet, but to be a part of an actual episode is an honor. So I really appreciate being here. Excited about this moment.
Glad to have you on, and I really want to make this episode one where we're having kind of a free-flowing conversation. We kind of have an outline of context, things I want to cover, but I think this is great for other independent appraisers out there that want to grow their business. They want to deliver a great product in an industry that is in flux. There's a lot of things going on. I mean, you have technology is trying out there to replace certain functions. You have the human factor. I'm a big proponent of the human factor. And there's so many different dynamics going on, but you can do all these things you want, but it comes down to the human experience. And that's what we're going to dive into a little bit today. So, hey, tell us a little bit about, how did you, get into the business? Tell us your story.
All right. Well, I will try my best to give you I don't know if this is true with anyone else, but it just seems that if there's anything that's life changing in my life, it's always really long, how I got there. But I guess in 2018, I just needed a change, career wise, or just, I don't know. I was just anticipating, desiring change. And it had been about 10 to 12 years since I had been in the building world. Prior to, 10 years, 12 years back, I was a general contractor and built mainly spec homes in my area of Kentucky. Live right on the Kentucky-Tennessee state line, right where Fort Campbell military base is. So, with the growth of Fort Campbell, I enjoyed quite a few years of success as a general contractor, spec home builder. And prior to that, I owned a paint contracting business, a trim carpentry business, and even before that, I was in lumber sales. So I've been, and my dad was a builder. I've been around the building world my entire life. I loved it. But I had stepped out of that for about 10 to 12 years. And there was just a desire to get back. My children were getting older. One was headed to college, needed some extra income. So all of these thoughts, again, had a friend that was a property adjuster, knew me pretty well. And he asked me one day, he said, "Hey, through conversation, I can tell you're wanting something different. You're wanting something new." And he was working kind of like a catch situation, but then again, dailies, it's hard to describe what he was doing, but it was down in Alabama. He asked me, said, "Hey, spend a week with me and just see what I do. See if you like it." Well, I did that. I went and spent a week with him, just doing property claims. I loved it. And I came back and, just decided that's what I'm going to do. Began pursuing my license for the state of Kentucky. Along that way, I picked up this book called Independent Adjusters Playbook, written by Chris Stanley. Little fast read, which are my favorite. Read it, and in the back of that book, there's Chris Stanley's email. Chris@ipath.com, still has the same email today. This is in 2018.
Wow.
And I mean, I don't know if I've ever read a book where the author puts his or her email. So the book encouraged me so much. It made me feel like I could do this, and it gave me some clear steps.
That's great.
So I just emailed him, just simply to say thank you for writing the book. Well, lo and behold, this author replies to my email, and it says, "Hey, thank you so much for encouraging me. You want to talk sometime? You want to talk on the phone?" And of course, another moment, wow, an author wants to talk to me. So we got on the phone, immediately hit it off. I love Chris to death. He's one of my great friends now, but he began to talk about auto appraisals, auto adjusting.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew nothing about vehicles. I could check the oil, check the air. I didn't know the difference between a fender and a quarter panel, nothing. But he talked about the need, that the industry's need for auto appraisers. He talked about his affiliation. I didn't even know that he, had this mentoring training program called iPath. But he shares this with me and essentially says, "Hey, why don't you consider going through my training and see if we can't get you working? Yes, get to property, but how about start with the foundation of auto, learn the claims experience, learn, learn all the elements of receiving and handling and completing a claim." So I did, and I went through that program. Every week I had revisions, and it's designed to give you as best as it can a real claim scenario situation. So
Mm-hmm.
you write an estimate. I mean, if there's mistakes, you get a rejection, and you have to make revisions. Every week I got a revision. So did that. I have no idea how I became certified, but I did. I passed the course, and just shortly after passing that course in January of 2019, because of the affiliation that iPath has with companies like ACD and
Mm-hmm.
others, you guys gave me a chance. It helped that certification because of what's taught and the information, the insight that's given. It helps us bypass that 2 to 3, sometimes 4 years experience that so many firms want. And the rest is history. I've been doing daily auto, and of course now heavy equipment claims every day since early 2019. So
That's a great story. And the thing about it, and I know Chris's class is it breaks it down into really breaking down a lot of the fundamentals of the process. And I'm a big believer in that because, you can learn, you could be at a collision repair shop and learn that process there. I personally, I learned the process working for carriers. So I went through carriers, multi-week training classes. They sent me for a couple of weeks back east to a training class at a facility, and you have to you dial in on that. And everybody kind of learns different ways. And I think his course has really given a lot of people the chance to learn with this. That didn't exist when I started. You didn't have the internet to be able to do that. So it's a great opportunity for a lot of people out there to get their feet wet, get out there and learn the process. And just like you, once you learn through the course and then you start to do it into the real world, you start to learn and grow and keep building those skills. But those fundamentals, proper photographs, documentation, I think a lot of people, even if you come from a repair shop, you may know how to write an estimate. If you don't know the process of the claim, or you don't know how to communicate with the vehicle owner, that can be even some of the most important things whatsoever right there. It's the actual process. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. So that course, that Chris designed, it taught us how to call the vehicle owner, how to, establish or set up our appointments, literally how to receive. I mean, I remember one of the first words that Chris, began to drill into our heads was status,
Yes, exactly.
communicate. And I mean, every week, it teaches us how to write an appraisal report,
Mm-hmm.
how to, complete a total loss workup. I mean, yeah, the fundamentals, how to even inspect a vehicle, front to back, left to right,
With a
outside to
consistent
inside.
method, right? Consistent
That's right.
pattern. So
It's
you
a
make it,
system.
it's systematic, it's repeatable, and therefore you don't make mistakes and miss key
Right.
photographs. Because I can't tell you, missing the key photographs is a thing that's been going on for years. Even when I started, hey, you didn't get the right photographs, or you didn't get the right documentation. Documentation in this industry is essential. And I tell, like you're talking about statusing is so important. I think I always tell people, and I repeat this over and over, the problems that are generating claims are moments of uncertainty. And when a vehicle owner is in an accident, they have moments of uncertainty. They don't know what's going to happen next. So if you, as an appraiser in the field or an adjuster, if you can alleviate that moment of uncertainty for that vehicle owner by giving them the information they need, then that helps pave the way for a smoother process. So
absolutely.
So you went through the course. You had the background in property. Then you went into the auto, and you've developed those skills. So how did you go out, set up the business, for somebody that hasn't never set up the business? How do you set up the business? How do you get yourself marketing out to multiple firms? Like you work with our firm, you work with multiple firms. How do you go out there? What's some advice? Like, how'd you do it? And some tips you learned along the way that could help somebody.
Sure. Well, of course, I feel very, lucky in the fact that iPath has affiliates, that they're partnered with. So I feel like maybe that was a little bit of an advantage, but still, there's that moment when, a firm says, all right, we'll use you. But then you've got to start to build that trust, that relationship. But what I did, and this is, I'm wired like this. I'm a process guy.
Yep.
I never want to do step 2 until step 1 is completely, accomplished. I might have my eye on step 2, but I'm focused on step 1. And so I felt that, and what I realized early on immediately is that every firm has their own culture. They have their own, systems. They have their own value, system. I mean, everybody knows what insurance company guidelines are. We get that,
right.
But, and I realized that if I'm going to do this right, I'm going to have to pace myself. I'm going to have to set a pace. And I was fortunate at the time that, I could step into this industry gradually. And so that's what I did. I just started, one firm for 1 month, second month, second firm, and just began to, take on until I built a claim load that I felt was not just manageable, but could also, earn a great living. It's definitely changed. I've been in the industry 3.5 years now. The things that I was hoping for in the beginning, I'm experiencing now. But with growth, with every level of growth comes new challenges.
What are some of the challenges? What are some of the challenges you'd say right now that are the biggest challenges?
Yeah, right now, the biggest challenge for me is managing claim load in my area. During COVID, my area, about a 200-mile radius. I know that sounds large, but I'm in a unique area of Kentucky, and especially on the heavy equipment side. There's not many heavy equipment appraisers for sure. But the challenge I'm facing now, currently, is claim load and managing that. I don't know, and Ernie, you probably have way better gauge on the industry and the claims volume side of things, but what it is now compared to what it was just even before COVID, it feels like night and day. Before COVID, I felt like I could, it had its challenges, but it was definitely manageable. And now I'm at a level where my business has grown to where I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I maintain the relationships, by way of finishing assignments on time? That's the biggest challenge I have right now.
That's the growth pains. Yeah, that's the growth pains. Which are good things to have. You're
definitely
growing.
Growth pain.
What I see in the industry, to kind of follow up on what you were saying, I think a lot of this is born out of the fact that pre-COVID, there was a situation where a lot of carriers, they had a lot of staff on board. There's the push toward photo estimating, and then claim volume dropped. And I think a lot of carriers and a lot of companies they downsized some of their internal staffs. They brought some of the photo estimating in, but I think there's been just a drop in the skill sets out there People actually can go in the field. If carriers downsize their staff, people retire, people move on. There's a finite resource out there of quality trained people. And that's why I think it's a great opportunity, because as much as we talk in the industry about InsurTech, technology, how it's going to streamline straight through processing, from my perspective, this claims business is a human business. I say it all the time. And you can use computers and use technology to assist in the process, but to replace humans in this important industry, I think is short-sighted. You can't do that. And I think for you getting this volume like this, we're coming into a world where carriers have their internal field, or I should say photo estimating teams, but they don't have the resources that can go out there and deliver that great service in person. That's why they rely on resources out there that can deliver that quality service. That's why it's more important than ever, I think, for the independent appraisers out there to realize, hey, you're often the face of that client of yours. You're that face. You have the opportunity to build a great reputation, grow your business, and like I said, manage that growth. But from my perspective, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Oh my goodness. Of course, I'm still very much involved in the iPath community. So that's, I get to talk to a lot of appraisers all around the nation. And, even our newly graduated students, I mean, I can't think of an appraiser right now that is not working, and the work is just, not just steady. I mean, I think we're all dealing with that right now, and it is a great problem. I'm not complaining, but it is challenging right now to manage the claim load.
Well, one thing I want to say that I think for a lot of appraisers out there, you should keep in mind is to keep growing your skill set, keep learning, keep growing. You can build that initial knowledge base that you can learn, but always have that hunger to grow your skills. And now for you, for example, Brad, I'm telling you, I see you on LinkedIn. I see you post you see pretty much everything out there, right? You've seen tractor trailers, farm equipment. I mean, what have you learned? What are some of the things you've had experienced? Like pretty much everything?
I've gotten to do an Amish buggy.
Wow.
Yeah. Of course, they were the claimant, so they got hit. We totaled the buggy. That was a fun one. I've worked on a cotton candy, like cotton candy / hot dog trailer.
Wow.
Learned a ton on that one.
Yep.
I actually went to the factory where they manufacture them. They also have a repair side.
That's interesting. You get to learn, right? Hands-on.
Oh man, listen. What I have found, especially even at body shops, a lot of these technicians, no one ever asks them, how do you do this? So the minute you ask them, how do you make this? How do you repair this? I mean, you just sit back and listen, and they will explain every detail. I learned, I think that's, if I have any strengths at all, that would be one strength I know of. I try to remain a student. I love learning.
Yep.
I struggled growing up learning. So, I don't know, somewhere my brain started working, and I love learning. And just there's a sense of accomplishment in the fact of just knowing more than you did today, than you did yesterday. And this industry, and that's what I tell, I have the opportunity to encourage a lot of new appraisers. And that's just one of the things. Listen, even failure, you get a rejection on an estimate, and you've got to rewrite it, and it's a long one.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You use that as a learning opportunity. Try to let that be the first time and the last time you make that mistake. Learn from it. Stay teachable. And I've been challenged with that admonition before, but I do try to keep it close to my heart, and try to be teachable. Sure.
One thing I noticed about you that really catches my eye on LinkedIn, you're very active. I see you post things, and some of the things you've inspected. You talk about the industry. I think that's really important because that brings attention to our industry. And
Right.
it's done, I think, really with a positive mindset, which I really like. I think that's the thing. And it's inspiring because, I see the people who are liking the post, they're following, they're doing these things. It brings attention. And also, I think by doing that, other appraisers out there see that. And it sort of creates like, hey, I'm not alone out here. And maybe
Right.
somebody's out in California, or somebody's in Arizona, or somebody's in some state, and they feel, hey, I'm an isolated appraiser out here in my own area. But then they see other people going through that, and it sort of creates a network of people that kind of, could share in those things and see what's going on. So I have to say, I'm really impressed with the way you use that social media. You do it in a positive way and really get out there. It's really, really inspiring.
Thank you.
You
Thank you.
know?
Yeah, of course, I'm still, I feel like a rookie many days. Just 3.5 years into the industry. I mean, there's some folks that have been here for decades, but I think that's one of the things that I started to notice is it's kind of like this secret world, or hidden world, I should say. And so that's part of it, and just trying to fuel or nurture connection.
Yep.
There's I ride around in a vehicle sometimes all day long. I'm by myself,
Hmm.
especially in rural Kentucky. I'm on, you know, the back roads, and just to get on LinkedIn and connect that way. I don't know. I just it's kind of cliche, but it's true. We're just better together. And I've had appraisers reach out to me on LinkedIn, just getting
Hmm.
started.
Yep.
I've reached out to some folks, especially when I ventured into the heavy equipment side of things. How do I go about, addressing this damage, or whatever? Yeah, and it gives people insight. We're professionals.
There's
That's
a
what
lot of
we
knowledge to
are.
be shared. There's a lot of knowledge to be
Yeah.
shared out there, and that's key. Like when I look back to my career, when I started out, went to a 2-week training class at the insurance carrier, and then they throw you right in the field. And I remember how I felt so ill prepared, and I got it. But then you just started learning and growing. Like you said, you start to ask other people, and you start to gain other people's knowledge. There's a lot of wealth of knowledge to be shared amongst each other out
Yes.
there, which is really powerful. You know.
Yes, absolutely.
Hey, so what's your thoughts on this whole AI estimating stuff
Oh
out
yeah.
there? What do you think about that? I have my thoughts on it, but what do you
Oh,
think on
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, of course, man, there's so much we could talk about on this. Of course, from a business standpoint, I get it. I understand you're always trying to find ways to be more efficient, to be more profitable. I get that.
Hmm.
And there are certain aspects when it comes to the damage of a vehicle that definitely, it may not need a physical inspection, an appraiser on it. But when it comes to the damage appraisal side of the world, we might, it might be a damaged bumper, but behind that damaged bumper is the owner. It is a person. It is a mother, a single mother that's trying to get children to daycare, to school, soccer practice, and then go to work. And that vehicle is all she has. Or maybe a student in school, or
Right.
the breadwinner of the home. That vehicle, I cannot tell you how many times, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, Ernie, but sometimes I'm the only human, or the only interaction that these owners have had.
Right.
They filed their claim on an app, which is fine. They filed the claim on an app. They got a response, a reply, an email that says, "Hey, somebody's on it."
Right.
And then I call, and I'm a human, and just, you can tell that they're, some instances they're just worried. And you cannot, especially when we're thinking about customer service. I'm I've never served on the insurer side of the industry, but I'm just thinking, man, if I want to keep the policyholders, um, I want to make sure that customer service is
I
number
agree.
one.
Yep.
And yes, IA will have its place, but you cannot remove the human factor, even the heart factor. And I just I just think we're here to stay. I mean, AI can't go to a salvage yard. He can't go to a tow
Right.
yard or and accomplish what's needed in those instances. Uh, you know, um, Software or technology cannot calm a worried elderly individual who's on a fixed income and they just got hit. They're the claimant. They just got hit, and this vehicle's 20 years old. It's going to get totaled.
Yep.
They need a someone to calm them, and just give them just the practical pieces. You've probably developed, studies are out there as to how many people have never filed a claim. They don't know what to do,
Right.
so just helping them along is
Yeah,
necessary.
I agree with you, and I see situations where a lot of times maybe a carrier tried to do a photo estimate first, and then that gets
Mhm.
assigned to,
Oh my
it has to
goodness.
be cleaned up. You have to basically almost restart the whole thing, because doing it off of photographs, like you said, on small claims may have its advantages, but when you try to do heavy damage behind, there's so much behind. When a tear down happens, you find all this hidden damage. It almost moots at the point of, why did you even go to a photo estimate? You could have solved the problem immediately by having a person out. So it has to be, I think personally, AI technology automation needs to be more of assisted solutions
Right.
for the adjuster and the
Right.
appraiser. What can you do to remove needless tasks that are just sort of tasks that don't really have value to the process, instead of trying to take over a process? It can be tools to help out. Let me ask you, what are some of the things, just off the top of your head, like one or two things that you think that maybe a carriers could do better, or things that would make your job easier in the field? Like, what are some things that you find that are maybe a reoccurring problem that, if that was done better, it would make it easier?
Well, of course, we're always talking about communication from our uh, place to the
Mm-hmm.
carrier via the appraisal firm. But what I would love to see is either more communication or clearer communication from the insurance company to the vehicle owner, whether it be the insured or claimant. It doesn't. It seems like more often than not, like I just said, we've got an individual here that has a claim and they don't know what to do next. They don't know. They don't know who to call.
Right.
They don't know who their point of contact is. And of course they end up calling me. I'm happy to answer the phone, but there's oftentimes where I have to say, listen, I really don't know where to point you. I can email the adjuster,
Mm-hmm.
via the firm, and tell them that, you're now waiting 3 weeks, but it seems like just, just a simple, bullet point list. This is how this claim process is going to go,
So you're saying
you know.
basically inform their customers maybe a little bit better about what to expect during the process, sort of set expectations. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it even happened to me. I called an insured today to schedule an appointment, and he was nice about it, but he said, well, why are you calling me? I've already taken
Right.
my vehicle to the shop. They wrote an estimate. Why? And I was just thinking, why didn't anyone just simply tell him, hey, we're going to send an appraiser out, to confirm the damages, or work with the body shop, uh, you
It's
know,
possible somebody may not have even spoke with them.
right.
Okay.
Oh, this gentleman had no idea. I mean, thankfully, through that conversation, I was able to just explain. And of course, his immediate response was worry. It was
Yeah.
just a kind of level of some sort of anxiousness. Wait a minute, is something wrong? And I'm just reassuring him, listen, nothing's wrong here. I'm going to be here till your vehicle's completed, repaired. Um, but yeah, it just that I think would help a lot. You know, that would be one of the biggest things that I could think
Okay.
of right now.
So now I want you to kind of think about this a little bit. Now, what advice would you give? Some tips. I'm a new appraiser. I'm getting in the business. I'm ready to go. I've got my training. I'm ready to go. What are some things that I would say that are just like non-negotiables? you got to do these things to be successful. If you want to go out there and be successful as this thing, what are some key tips like in your typical day or things you get advice to somebody starting out?
Absolutely. Well, I did this over the weekend. A young lady who is only 2 weeks in,
Mm-hmm.
and she's signed up with 5 firms starting out. And of course, where she lives, her services are very much needed.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these firms are starting to send her, and they're not talking to each other. They don't know that, we sent her 10 this week and the other firm sent her 10. So already she's feeling overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's a new appraiser. So she's starting to, she's having to become familiar with her estimating software, the different portals
Mm-hmm.
for each company, just kind of like I said earlier, the value system, and when I say value system, I'm even going in deeper, like, every QC department is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So she's already feeling overwhelmed. And I always encourage new appraisers, back to what I said earlier, pace yourself, start slow. Keep in mind that it's practice before profits. I kind of took the first 6 to 8 months in my mind, and it was all about perception. I had to really so what I told myself is, listen, these firms are taking a chance on me and they're paying me at some level to learn. And so I kind of just took that frame. I had the fundamentals. I knew,
Mm-hmm.
how much repair time to give to that,
Yep.
dented fender, but there are levels of the repair that are a bit challenging, structural damage and things like that. So, pace yourself. I see a lot of new appraisers that are not thinking through the bookkeeping side of their business.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a real clear system for invoicing or even tracking. Maybe they don't have to invoice the firm, but they're just not tracking. And I can't imagine driving around all day wondering, what am I going to make this month?
Right.
You need that knowledge. I think you need to measure, profits versus, income versus expenses. And these are things, and I tell people, we as independent appraisers, you're not starting a job, you're starting a company.
That's right.
And, you're everything in that company, though. You're CEO,
You're wearing
you're the
every hat.
accounting department, everything. You're dispatch,
Yeah.
And it's a lot in the beginning. But, if I mean, I can't think of anyone who's ever started a successful company that didn't have to endure and even embrace that hardship, and so those are some of the things that I see a lot of new appraisers, again, back to the simple things about not communicating,
Oh yeah.
just not having a clear or a good way of scheduling. Um, those are things that you have to learn.
I agree.
Um,
I agree with that. And when you say communication is key. I think communication, from our perspective, as has a firm that it has independent appraisers throughout the country in our network, the biggest thing for us is a lot of times people say, hey, how can I get more work? But communicate. A lot of times you have to remember that we may not know coverage areas that you've expanded to. We may not know that you're going to be on vacation for a week unless you let us know, or you're out so that communication goes a long way. And from my perspective, if you can keep a great relationship with the vendor partners or you have out there, different companies that you're working with from the appraiser side, that will go a long way to solidifying yourself as a go-to person, a person that's reliable. Think about that. Being reliable is probably one of the most important things with great communication, because then you can be counted on. So I always tell people that communication, and you're just reiterating exactly what you said, right. All right. Right on.
I've noticed, because I've watched over 3.5 years, I've watched some really good appraisers, and it's momentary, but it feels it. So they'll maybe get overwhelmed with claim volume,
Mm-hmm.
and they get this idea that this is the way it's always going to be. um, and they forget that the human factor. And what I mean by that is, and I've encouraged them some to listen, just tell them I'm overwhelmed. Just simply say that. I'm
Exactly.
not lazy. I'm not neglectful. I'm not, I'm not, I am a reliable person, but I only have 24 hours in my day.
That's right.
I'm happy to do anything you want me to do. But just simply say that and see what they say back,
Right. They'd rather have,
um,
we'd rather have people be honest and communicate what the situation is versus trying to take on too much and not being able to deliver. That only creates it backfires in many ways,
yeah.
because then you're like, well, this person thought they could take it all because, and then they can't, they don't deliver. So you're
There's a
right.
fear. There's a fear in us as appraisers that if, especially guys like me, I'll just use ACD for instance.
Mhm.
ACD took a chance on me, and man, the last thing I want to tell them is no. And that can be dangerous. Um, to not say no when you need to, and lo and behold, because I've been there, I've made that mistake of not learning the power of no.
Yep.
No doesn't mean no, I don't want to do it. Sometimes no just simply means I want to do it, but I cannot
Right.
figure out
And,
how.
and that's key. That communication is key. Let me ask you, do you have any good stories? Like, give me a good story, any stories you've had out in the field of something you've seen or anything exciting that people might find interesting.
Oh man, let me tell you about my first ever assignment. Oh man, I was just waiting for that email to come through,
Uh-huh.
and it was. I remember I got the email notice about 9 o'clock. It was a Thursday. I mean, I'm just in my mind. I'm just going to be super praiser. I've got my cape. I've got this. This is mine. This is my hour, and I got it. Of course, I started in not adjust right, but I started with Autotext.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that's where I learned. I wrote all my first estimates in Autotext. Well, I receive a supplement assist. What in the world is a supplement assist?
Uh-huh.
So and of course, there's the attachment. Here is the insurance carrier's estimate that they've written in CCC, which I've never seen
Wow. That was
CCC.
a curveball thrown at you then.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I mean, there's a couple of challenges. This initial estimate was written off photos, and the vehicle is at a shop. The shop is 45 minutes away. Again, my first inspection at a body shop. These
Wow.
guys have been in the industry all these years. So I'm trying to think, am I going to tell them that I'm brand new or what, or let them figure it out? So I show up. The estimate was about $1,200
Mm-hmm.
written off of photos. And I show up to the shop. I'm great friends with the gentleman that's the lead estimator now. His name's Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy. We've built a great friendship over the years. But Mark, I don't know if Mark sensed that I was new, but he took time. He brought me a $12,000 estimate that he wrote after the
Wow.
vehicle had been torn down. Yeah, it was a front end collision. That secondary impact, of course, went all the way through the fenders. It went up into the engine compartment and everything, but it just wasn't noticeable. It was pretty. Of course, OEM parts on this
Mm-hmm.
particular vehicle. But Mark took his time with me and walked me through that estimate. But I remember just thinking, prior to getting that assignment, I'm thinking, man, what an opportunity. And then coming home afterwards thinking, I'm doomed. I haven't even got started, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna let everyone down. But thankfully, I made it through. I made
Yeah.
it through that, and I look back on that now, and I do that every day now. I mean, just
Yeah, it's encountering that fear. I know the first time when there's something you haven't experienced like that, and it seems challenging. My advice to people like that is out there when they come to something like that is to document really well, take a lot of photographs, and really. But when you're starting out, that's a heck of a story because it's not just a small hit you got; it was
Oh
a
my
massive
goodness.
one. My story when I started ACD in 2003, first claim we ever got. And, it was the one where they said, okay, what's your rates? We gave them our rates of what we charge. And they go, okay, great. We got one in the middle of nowhere. It was like 5-hour drive. And I go, well, that's mileage. it was like 5 hours. And we got somebody to finally, I got lucky though, because we found somebody that was an appraiser in that town. So it was a mountain town in the middle of nowhere, but for somebody to go there would have been about 5 hours. Like
Yeah.
they give you the hardest claim. Sometimes you get some of the biggest challenges like that. But if you're able to overcome them, like your story, then it's smooth sailing. So
That was of course. I think and then within auto claims, there's been, I remember the first time I got a rear collision and just learning about that, and you know, uh, so many things, mechanical. Through iPath, we learned a ton about,
yep.
panels and, but man, getting inside the engine and suspension, and I just remember having to learn quick. I've got to find resources. I've got to read an article. I've got to watch a YouTube video. I've got to call a mechanic that I've met,
Right.
over the
And it doesn't
years.
hurt
And
to ask questions. That's the thing, is to ask questions, have people explain things out. Even like when you're at that shop and you start to learn when they start the technicians and then start to explain things, it can be a great source of knowledge. And it's just really to not close yourself off, but have that open mind to listen, like you said. So
stay teachable.
yep,
Absolutely. I
exactly.
mean,
So
I remember that.
so we've been going along a long time here. This has been fun going over this stuff. So hey, as we wrap up, I want to Brad, tell us about, besides this claims business, what are some of the things you like to do outside of the business? What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Well, I love music. I play music. I love live music. I'm only about an hour from Nashville. I definitely don't get to go to as many concerts or just, to hear live bands as I would like to. I've got a 20-year-old daughter who loves music as well, and she still likes to hang out with me, which is, I'm grateful for that. But we do a lot of concerts together. My son is he eats, sleeps, and drinks baseball. I love baseball. I grew up loving
Nice.
baseball. I was never ever the player that he was ever, but he does travel ball, so we get to do that on the weekends. I love that. I love
Great.
going and watching him. And um, I, I don't get to fish, but I dream about fishing a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I'm at a place in my life, I love hanging out with my kids a lot.
Yeah, I know what you
Um,
mean. Yep, family.
love encouraging people. I enjoy helping people feel like that they can accomplish something that seems almost, impossible to accomplish. And that you can feel like that in the industry,
Hmm.
you know so getting to do that, connect that way. Those are some of my passions. And
That's great. Like I said,
yeah.
you're a really positive influence in the industry. So I just, again,
Well,
I
thank
just
you,
want to thank
Ernie.
you for that, because it's really good what you're doing, and I think it inspires other people. And that's what I really enjoy about it. I like helping other people myself. We have the same kind of mentality. I like to be able to, it gets to the point where just so many people out there you'd love to help, and you have that same mindset. So, as
Thank
we
you, sir.
close here, Brad, tell our listeners how they can get in touch with your firm if they're interested in a carrier or somebody that wants another network firm. Anybody, how they get a hold of you and make a connection.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, thanks for just letting me be a part.
Hey, you're welcome.
I feel very, very honored to be a part, and I hope I can help someone just with my story alone. But LinkedIn, I wish I would have created LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is the best way to reach me. A lot of connections with folks on LinkedIn. It's amazing how, I don't know how many people are on LinkedIn, but at the end of the day, it feels very connected there. So LinkedIn would be the best. I'm not dare going to give you my email address. I'm trying my best to manage that part of my world, but yeah, LinkedIn is
All right.
great.
That sounds
Let's
good.
hook up there.
You
Yeah.
got it. Well, it was great having you on, Brad. And like I said, appreciate everything you do in the industry and the great product you have out there. So,
Well, thanks, Ernie. I again appreciate you inviting me to be a part. Of course, I love working with ACD. There's a great culture there. The team that you have there. It they encourage and they will reach out from time to time and just check on you. They're very affirming, so really grateful for that. And yeah,
all
thank you.
right. Again, all right. Keep in touch and we'll talk to you later.
All right, man.
This has been Focus on Claims with Ernie Bray, President and CEO of ACD.